Ah, okay. So this is part 3 or 4. I forgot. So right. So where did I leave? I was in South Africa, yes, and I was when I was in primary school, I did some weird tests on everyone, and anyway, so then I got placed in high school on what was then Louis Botha Avenue. I don't know what it is now. It was called King Edward the Seventh School, with state school, but it was pretty much like an English boarding school. But I didn't live there, so I only lived around the corner, and so I lived at the bottom of Hillbrow, so just a short walk. And yeah, it was weird. Like, you wore blazers, and there was all this public school stuff going on. It was really weird, like from the 1930s, like corporal punishment if for just about anything. Like, even the prefects they used sawn-off hockey sticks, and if if you had a test, so it was at 30, and if you got below, say, 27 out of 30, then you get a cane for each below 27. So if you got 20, then you got. So encourage you to revise. I don't think I ever got caned in that. I was really good at English. I remember that, and we learned some African languages as well, which was weird, and that was good. And it was very. We were learning Latin, algebra, and all this kind of stuff, and we were like 11, 12, something like that. We marched around these blazers and school tuck shop and all this kind of stuff. It's very weird. And it was very sporty. Oh God, was it sporty? You had to play sport every day, and then Saturdays. It was like, oh my God, they're trying to take over your life. And it was like a quadrangle, like it was a really old style building, like Victorian, and had a what do you call that? A war memorial in the middle of the quadrangle, where all the former ex-boys' names were those that had died in the wars and stuff. It's just pretty boys only, of course, and it's pretty serious. The thing that was bugging me was that they had us doing this military training, like marching and stuff, and it was like sinking in, oh, you're really going to have to go in the army at some point. Because after that, they called it matriculation, 18, you were straight into the army if you were a white male. Whether you wanted to or not, if you'd lived there more than 8 years, didn't matter if you were a citizen or not. And so you couldn't vote either. So basically, let's go fight in this stupid army. I enjoyed my time there. The other kids were alright, and it was alright. I liked it, but apart from the marching, that's what put me right off. So we used to have to march, and then when they go left wheel, I would go right, and they had the sergeant major. Well, he was the biology teacher, but he was a bit of a and he'd come up and give you like a roasting and a whack with his baton and all this kind of carry on. And then after I started doing it, like a bunch of the other kids started copying me, so it turned into total chaos. And then so he gathered up all of us who were doing this, and he tried to humiliate us and called us the bum squad, and we had to go and sit under a tree while the rest of them marched up and down and like doing reviews in front of the headmaster and all this kind of carry on. The shame. I was like, no, I don't feel ashamed. And anyway, there was that. And but anyway, so my mum was really ill, and then I know we had a very limited amount of money, and I knew that the rand was about to tank, and if we didn't go then, basically we were stuck because the money would be worthless essentially, and like it is now. It's like, I mean, compared to what it was then, I can't remember the exact exchange rates, but it was like a rand and a bit was like a pound or something, whereas now it's like 10p or something. So, if that. So it was about to tank. I don't ask me how I knew that, but I knew, and so I convinced my mum we had to move back to England. My reasoning being is I didn't want me or my brother to go into the army, and also like as a woman in those days in Africa, obviously she got the bad end of the divorce deal. It's a man's country, and the man gets a lion's share, sort of thing. And and I don't know what was going on. My dad and maintenance and all that carry on. Don't like to ask. And then he was always pleading poverty. And anyway, and so just decided. My mum, she was so ill, and she had an injection like and it got infected somehow, and really bad. She was really ill, so we basically got what stuff we had. It fitted into a meter square of boxes, and shipped that to England. And we decided, because my mum wasn't like, instead of like going to London or something, because she didn't know what to do, it was all beyond her experience or something like that. And so she just decided to go back to her hometown, which was Todmorden, and we'd stay with my aunt, her sister, while she sorted her life out, sort of thing. And we got a, because in those days all the planes were boycotted and stuff, so they couldn't, there's hardly any airlines or anything. I think we ended up on Luxembourg Air. So I just remember like lugging all this stuff. I was kind of like bags of comics, these OK Bazaars bags, and suitcases, whatever, and because that had to last us until that mystery box arrived, whenever. So we just had just what we had, like suitcases and stuff, what you could fit in an airplane. And so we're in Luxembourg, and I was sort of leading the way, found the flight to London, and then we ended up at London. Well, it might even be Gatwick or somewhere. Anyway, and then my aunt, they got lost, but anyway, they showed up just late, and then my mum was always panicking about stuff, and then anyway, they just showed up, and then they didn't have a clue about London either, so I kind of figured out the subway system to get the train up to Todd, and then we got the train up to Todd, and we got a bus. End up in Cornholme, village. It's a village. It's part of Todmorden. It's just one of because Todmorden's like 3 valleys, so that's the Burnley side, and there's like a village there. There's 2 villages, I suppose. There's one called Portsmouth, and then there's Cornholme. I think the total population is about 1,000 people. So going from a big city to a little little village. Was quite a culture shock, and I had to start school in England, and I was completely blown away, really, because I was obviously a novelty. I had a South African accent at that point, very strong one, and everyone was full of questions, and I would, but I had I didn't realise that, in Yorkshire everyone's a wind-up merchant, and whereas I'd been quite innocent, I suppose, up till then, and because it was so strict, you didn't, and then like I remember the first time like a teacher walked into the room, I stood up, and the rest of the class was like, what the fuck, what is he doing? And it was like, if you didn't do that in Africa, you got caned. It was an automatic response. If a teacher randomly just walked into the room, even if it wasn't the teacher who was teaching at the moment, if another teacher came in, you all stood up. And if you didn't stand up, you got caned. And that was that. So I just automatically stood up when the teacher walked in the room. And it was like, no, you don't have to do that here. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then it was like, I don't know, Bash Street, Kid High. It was total chaos. It was totally different. And whoever had reviewed me, like for the Todmorden High School, like before I went in, it's like, you've come from Africa. It must have been in a mud hut or something. I think that was their attitude. And I said, yeah, well, I was finding the maths quite hard. We were doing algebra and stuff. But I didn't mention that part. But I just said, I found maths quite hard, and everything else was okay. But she given that conversation, I don't know, she put me in remedial. So I was in the remedial classes, and that was such a surreal thing. So I'd gone from like algebra to maths to like, colour in this piece of these squares and cut them out and glue them together or something like that. I was like, oh my god. And that went on for a little bit. It was just really weird. And like some classes we had, like the whole class was in it, like English or something. Anyway, so and history or something. So I think there was two occasions. One was the English teacher gave us this, like a little excerpt from a book. He didn't say what book it was or anything, and he said, "Right, you're feeling what this is about." But I'd read it. I mean, it was Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness. I said, Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness is all about imperialism, blah blah blah, and wrote like a couple of pages, and I think the other kids used to look at me like, what the hell is this kid doing? And then the English teacher got quite excited. He's like, oh, and then he put me outside and like on a desk. He said, just keep writing there, and I did, and then it was like, okay, and then we had a history test, and I think I finished it in like minutes, and then I just started reading. I had this version of the Lord of the Rings, and I was reading this like massive volume, like leather bound. I got this book out and started reading it, and the other guy was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, that was easy. And I got like, full marks on this history test or whatever it was, and they were all like scratching their heads about it. And the history teacher also went, I think you've been misassessed. So then I was sort of moved up some grade levels or whatever they call it into the upper grades or whatever. I don't know, sets, I think they were called. Even in maths, I think. I wasn't top set for maths. That was really for the brainiacs. But I still hated maths. It was awful. I had to do logarithms and all that nonsense. Wasn't a huge fan. I got my O-level maths, so I was like, thank God for that. And that's that. That's my relationship with maths ended. Though I have, of course, used maths a lot in my life. Um, but anyway, just anyway. And so, and the school was utter chaos. I was always fighting, and then the teachers went on strike, and the other kids went on strike, and then they were kicking us out of school at dinner time. And like my mum we were poor, right? At this point, we were like single parent family. Oh my god, 2 males. Oh god, we were like John Major like demonized us as and the police are like, they must have had your picture on the wall or something. So I got a letter from the police like, you have to come to the station for a caution. I'm like, for what? So I called them. I said, why do I have to come for a caution? They said, well, you tried to break into the shed on 5 Durham Street. I'm like, I beg your pardon, I live at 5 Durham Street. Why would I try to break into my own shed? And he's like, oh, and then put the phone down, and that's the end of it. But like, it was like, well, they must have me down as a bad one. Anyway, that was yeah. I really I was a nightmare. The first couple of years adjusting to British culture was really difficult. Like the culture, everything, and the kind of, I suppose you call it banter or abuse. I'm not sure which category it falls under. But yeah, it was. I mean, because obviously, like when you're in Joburg at the top school in all of Africa, even they would say, is like your expectations are quite high. You're like expected to go on to university and and you had all these names engraved all over the walls of former pupils and stuff like that, and then you go to Bash Street High, and I had a totally different expectation of how, because I only just read comics, right? So it's like, I don't know, the Beano or something. I was like, well, I had no clue at all. And I mean, Todmorden in the 80s was, it's Thatcher times. My dad did move back to the UK as well, but was immediately lost his job because of a miners' strike. He was based in Sheffield, and somehow, I don't know, an American company bought his company, and he ended up moving to West Virginia, of all places. So off he went. And by then I had 2 half-sisters as well. So anyway, they all went to America. And I got through my O-levels, and I was sort of hanging around I became like a goth or a punk or something like that. I don't know. I just fit in with this sort of little group that I used to hang out with. I eventually found some people to hang out with. Because I hadn't gone to the junior schools or the dirty schools or so it was quite difficult to fit in. I was this weird South African. I found it quite hard for quite a long time to sort of fit in. It wasn't easy. I can't imagine how difficult it must. I remember meeting this American kid when I first arrived there, and he was from, I don't know, San Diego or something. And he comes up to me and goes, "Get out of here." I was like, just leave, I'm leaving, I'm getting the hell out of this place. I'm going back surfing in wherever. And he wasn't impressed, and I was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to have to put up with this, whatever. And I did. And I always had jobs, like I had a paper round, and then I worked in the upgrade market stall. So I had to walk down at about 5 in the morning and set up the market greengrocer stall, and then walk to school, and then do all my stuff at school, and then go back, and then take down the grocery store. and and then I graduated to the butchers. Paid an extra £4. So I was doing that. That was all right. And apart from all the blood, it was a bit gross. And then, but it gave me a good idea about hygiene and things like that. And then after the butchers, well, I got a job in the co-op, and then there used to be a big co-op in Todmorden, and self-stacking, and then that paid good, well, at the time, good money, like £30 a week or something. But I got fired because they always like going, right, you're staying for overtime. You didn't get it. And I was like, no, I'm not staying for overtime. Because we booked to go to this concert after I finished work, and there was only one train because there was a train strike. So you had to catch that train. And I was striking, I said. And then, and the woman said, no, I need you to do overtime. And I said, well, I don't need to. You can't order me to do overtime. That's really a choice. And she said, you're fired. And oh dear. We used to call her Janice the Tank. Yeah, she was jumped up, tell lady. I was like anyway, that was great. And then like all the violence, like it was super violent. And then people were always fighting and stuff, and then even the women, and then and like, you know, you got to the age where you start going and drinking and stuff like that, like on the canal or whatever. Who'd go into the off license and pretend to be 18, you know, and buying Thunderbird or something, gut rot stuff, and oh dear, yeah. Anyway, best forgotten, I think. And then, well, my best friend at that time was also, he was like art. He was really talented, actually, very talented, and yeah, then we became, what, 16, 17ish. Like, I was doing A-levels. They'd all left. Most people had left at 15 and had got jobs at doing lathes or something like that, whatever, or just whatever. But me and this other mate were still at the high school doing A-level. I did 5 A-level, and art being one of them. And eventually graduated with 5 A-levels, yeah. But weirdly, it's a weird twist of history. So I was expected to get a really high grade for history. So I'd applied to do, I had no idea. So I applied to a history degree at Liverpool, because to do an art degree, you had to do first a year of foundation, like in a college in somewhere like Halifax or Burnley. But it's not funded, and my mum says, you're having a laugh if you think. Says, yep, okay. So I can do anything but art, so even though that's what I want to do. So anyway, so I went, so I thought, I'll go history then. But then, weirdly, whoever marked the history, our group's history papers, because the other kids, one was Slade, he had an offer at Cambridge, they were quite a bright bunch, really, the history class, but we all got D's. So we were like predicted A's and B's and stuff, and we all got D's. That dude must have been in a really bad mood that day, and the school could only afford to pay for 2 remarks, and so they paid for these other 2, but not for mine. So that meant I wasn't going to Liverpool to study history, because obviously a D was not high enough. So my highest grade, what was it in? English, yeah, and then B, what did I get another B in something else? I can't remember. Anyway, so I got C in art. Yeah, it's great. It was a very weird system. They'd like lay out a still life, and you had to draw it or something. I can't remember. It was a bit of a joke. Anyway, but high school. Yeah, but that was high school. It was awful. That's all I can say. Most of it. I really had a miserable time there. I think, well, I kind of learned my how to keep my head down, and and a few other things, and I did have fun with my mates and stuff. I don't know, saw some UFOs or ooh, and then we used to start going to Burnley a lot, because Todd was just like rednecks in pubs getting drunk on lager and looking for a fight. And especially to people like us, because we were like long hair or dreadlocks or something like that, and like they would be like not happy. We weren't townies sort of thing. And then they had like a football fighting group, and yeah, there were some real characters, and like fighting, like who's the top, who's the hardest, yeah, who's the hardest, and then anyway, then he appeared like ecstasy, and then suddenly everyone loved you, and just go, oh, I love you. So you'd have beat the crap out of me last week. Okay. He had a weird effect on me. Like, just made me talk more. Didn't make me dancey or anything. I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it on that. So that was high school. Oh, we did go to the House of Commons, I remember. And I walked in with a knife, because I'd forgotten. Cause I had a knife for my work on the market, and I just had it in my pocket. I guess it wasn't such a big deal then, knife crime or something. I don't even know. Anyway, I had this knife in my pocket, and you have to go through these metal detectors to go into the House of Parliament, and I had totally forgotten I had this knife in my pocket, and I only realised when we come out again that I had walked in and out with a knife in my pocket. But anyway, obviously the security. Anyway, but it was good. Yeah, we wandered around the House of Commons, and I saw David Blunkett. I went in some committee rooms and all that sort of thing. It just looked like my old school, basically. Like, you know, the high school in Africa, that sort of thing. You know, like old public school type thing. Wooden floors and everything, and bits of velvet draped around. But that was fun. And then me and one lad, we went down. I think we were given some free time. So for some reason, he wanted to go to Soho, so we went to Soho. We never had any money or anything, so it was like, I don't know, we just wandered around. But it was, the big smoke, and had a look. Had a look around. Never attracted me really much, London. I mean, it's so big, and I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I've lived in huge cities, much bigger than London, but for some reason, London never really took my fancy, as they say. Like Joburg is big, big city, one of the biggest cities in Africa. I mean, it was then. I don't know about now, but yeah, I mean, I lived right in the centre, more or less. Don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. The ecstasy, and then A-level results, and all that kind of thing. Yes. That's what I do now. I press this button.